Welcome to the Elk Season Podcast, Season 3, Episode 12. Today is April 25th, 2024, and it is 126 days until elk season. We are the Chambers Brothers. My name is Harold.
I'm David.
And tonight on the Elk Season Podcast,
We're going to talk about elk wildlife survival rates and a few other things related to elk. I actually just meant to say we're going to talk about elk. It's the Elk Season Podcast. We're going to talk about wolves in Colorado and Wyoming, grizzlies. Love talking about grizzlies.
Yeah.
You've actually gotten me into that. Conservation. CWD shows up. All bears are ... to be continued. We'll talk about that later. And an interesting confession. You said put this on the list. Interesting confession about CrossFit.
yeah,
And gear. All that coming up. So let's get to it.
all right, now, transition. Ooh, cool. Elk season, yeah, I'll edit that word out.
I think you should just leave it in.
No, I'll leave like a block.
I think the hand thing was what is needed.
It just has, it's just black, and it just says the Elk Season Podcast. Gives the date and stuff.
Dun, dun,
Anyways,
dun.
so I talked to you earlier, and I'm like, we got to shorten the podcast. I want to trim it up a bit.
Yeah.
And you just doing the intro gets me thinking, and I'm like, oh man, I just want to talk about this other thing now. But
Sorry.
it's relevant.
I'm laughing with you.
It's relevant.
And at you.
There's a TikTok trend right now. Would you rather be in the forest with a man or a bear?
Okay.
And women are overwhelmingly answering bear.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, it's just funny. It's just funny. Their assumption of all men is the worst man they've ever met, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's most people are pretty decent.
Yeah.
And most bears aren't scary.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
my spirit animal's a bear, so
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Now, we do
Ladies.
have some grizzly talk tonight.
Yes, we do.
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for that. We're going to
No,
talk
it's
about
okay.
elk.
You
We're
got it
gonna
off
talk
your
about
mind. All right.
You're right. I do. I do an Idaho Fish and Game report every day on my radio
Yeah.
program. Today, I actually read the results, and this is all from memory.
And you know how memory can be.
Oh yeah, I have a mind for numbers. It's very interesting to me and very telling because they got like 450 mule deer fawns and 180 elk calves,
Yeah.
and radio collared them to
Okay.
check out what their mortality rate was over the winter. Now, last year we notoriously had a terrible winter.
Yes, we did.
And the survival rates were in, I think, the 70s, in the
Okay.
70%.
That's
I know it sounds
like it should be good.
It sounds reasonable. And not only that, it sounds like because they preface it with saying, winter depredation is the most dangerous time for fawns, obviously.
Right.
Now, I know springtime is tough, and these are fawns that were born in 2023 and have made it all the way around to 2024.
yes.
So now they have that data. The ones that are born in the spring that are devoured by bears and wolves, as
Yeah.
everybody likes to claim. And it is a great time. It is a great time. Springtime is a great time for bears and wolves to get calves and fawns.
I thought you were going to say to be devoured by a bear.
It is also a great time to be devoured by a bear if you're into that.
Yeah. That's what you're
different
into.
strokes for different folks, man. It's not my thing.
Not mine either.
But the elk data was like always in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
It was like 90%. Last year, I think it was like 92%. This year was 95%. So the elk data really didn't change from the winters. I would like to know what the 1996-97 winter was, because that was
the aggregate of data to look at the different winter findings.
Because I remember some winters as being particularly incredible.
Yeah.
And the one in 96 to 97 was one where it doesn't snow when it's cold. Man, it was 10 below and snowing.
Yeah.
It was.
I've had those dumb arguments
It
too.
was 8 degrees and snowing, buddy. It was cold, and it snowed a lot. And it was like right after the wolves were reintroduced, and a lot of elk died, and a lot of people wanted to blame the wolves. So, anyways, I'd like to see what that data is. But the data on mule deer was a lot more interesting because their data over the past 6 years, and they showed their data over the past 6 years, and was in the 80s. Was all in the 80%, right? It was except last year. What did I say, 70?
Yeah.
Like 78, 79%. It was close to 80.
Yeah.
So it seems like a very small and insignificant percentage. This year was 85 or 88, but it was in the higher 80s. So anyways, good news for hunters this fall. Those fawns and calves born last year will be sprouting much bigger antlers this year if they have them at all.
Yeah. Well, and I saw an image of a bull elk somewhere. It was on the Boise News, actually. So there's a golf course somewhere, and there's a bull elk that was feeding on the grounds, and somebody was able to get a picture of him, and you can already see his nubs growing.
Oh, wow.
It was impressive.
Wow.
So
yeah, it's kind of like, the teeth, the kid's teeth coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, that one falls out. Well, yeah, that's because here comes another one.
Yeah, I hadn't seen such young growth before. We were usually out there in June. We see, the antlers they're not full, obviously, but they're larger than what I saw. But it's just thinking about elk, knowing how close we are to August already.
126 days till elk season.
I'm feeling it. Just excited to get there.
I know, and it's nice to see spring. It's nice to see the leaves coming back on the trees and life returning to earth.
But nothing like that fall air, the coolness. Anyway, I'm going to get lost in nostalgia here, and this is going to turn into a 2-hour podcast. We'll talk about
the air is crisp.
But it's nice to know that they track that data. Yeah. Want more context for what that data could potentially mean for us. It sounds like that's what you're hoping for, and I'm interested as well.
Yeah. So and we've had fewer wolf depredation this year because we've had fewer wolves.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting again to see how the fall pans out for us. And if we can continue to harvest wolves and bring their numbers down, we can start to see an increase in elk. I believe we will start to see and actually notice an increase in elk numbers.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm hoping so. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that because Idaho Fish and Game has seen numbers drop, and so they dropped the number of tags.
Yeah.
So the numbers are going to come up before they let more tags out, but meanwhile, we're still hunting. So we've had some bad years, and I think we have some good years coming.
Excited
is
for
the
that
idea. Yeah.
I don't know what this means. I'm going to segue to the next thing. I'm looking at a picture of some elk, and they've got a mysterious friend with them. And you probably, hopefully, by this point, put this picture on the screen in front of my face.
Yes, indeed, I have.
Can you tell what that animal is, folks?
Yeah, it's a European red deer.
A European red deer.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's what the guy said in the video.
Okay.
It looks like an elk.
I was talking about the donkey.
Oh, I thought you said that there was a picture of elk antlers.
No.
Oh, an elk skull.
No, I didn't. We didn't actually talk about that. But we can segue to that one. I'm looking at a group of elk here.
Yeah,
and they've got a particular friend with them.
This came out a couple weeks ago, and I know a lot of people in sportsman circles have already seen this video. It's just cute.
Fun.
Yeah, it's just funny.
But sorry,
no, that's all right.
Let me tell the story that you wanted to talk about.
There's just a little donkey running around with elk.
It acts like it's their family.
Yeah.
Not that I mean to anthropomorphize there, but it does. It just kind of is like, I'm part of the crew. I'm going to go with you,
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know. It's just kind of cool.
Hey, love doesn't know. Let love be love, okay?
Yeah. Now we're going to talk more about wolves later, but this next one is about an elk that showed up on a football field.
Yeah. Do you know what town that was in? Who's freaking legendary?
I want to bet that it's it looks like it could be on the east side.
Of the Rockies.
The east side of the park, because it says here a town, gateway town to Yellowstone National Park.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's one of the northern entry points, because when you look at the landscape in the image, it's definitely not West Yellowstone.
Okay, right. So like Red Lodge.
Yeah, maybe
Red Lodge or Cody.
Yeah, a wolf dragged an elk carcass onto a football field and was like, "Yeah, I'll come back later for it," because that's what wolves do. They kill an animal, but then they feed on it over the next few days because it's a food store.
Did they kill it and drag it there?
I have no
or
idea.
is that where it came down? Elk are down in the valleys right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually think that that's probably more logical.
And does that school have a camera?
And that's the only thing. I don't remember what I read in the article. It actually came out of Outdoor Life. There might be more context there that I just don't remember because you know how memory works. But it's kind of a cool story. Nature is awesome as much as it is gruesome.
Yeah.
But that's
but it's very I think it's one of the coolest things ever. There is a place in the United States where wild animals, wolves,
can
drag giant 800-pound carcasses onto school grounds
for your environmental science class.
That is epic.
Or your yeah.
That is epic.
This is awesome.
Oh, that's so cool.
But then there was the deer skull that that looks like an elk skull, but it was from
the Ukraine.
Yeah.
It was irradiated, very very heavily radiated. There's a guy on TikTok I follow. His account is the Chernobyl dogs or Chernobyl dog study. It might say on there.
Dogs of Chernobyl.
Dogs of Chernobyl. I was so close. You know how memory works. And so, but he did a couple different tests because he was standing outside. They built a dome, right? They just built a big dome to cover Chernobyl.
The secondary dome.
Yeah, and he was within sight of that.
Yeah.
And he found particulate matter. I mean, the size of a pencil that broken off that made the number on that look ridiculously low.
Yeah, I would bet.
Ridiculously low.
Yeah, that I know it was a made-for-TV show, but the Chernobyl, that
HBO.
Yeah,
what HBO did. Oh, HBO was heavy.
Yeah, it was good though. Anyway,
so interesting data.
But speaking of dead heads, because that's what you would have in the image. But this wouldn't necessarily be about dead heads, but antlers that fall off. And so I came across this crazy story of a poacher who got a fine and a worldwide ban on hunting after camping on an elk refuge and stashing over 1,000 pounds of shed antlers. So, so we have talked about shed hunting, and there's closures, and then there's days. And you showed me videos of places in Montana where it opens up on a certain day.
Yeah.
Well, what the person was doing is they were, prior to the season being open, going out, finding the antlers and putting them in a certain location. And then when it opens up, they go and they just
say, "Look what I found."
Yep.
Yeah.
But they were caught, and I can't remember.
Good.
You're making it bad for everybody, and sadly, those other hunters lose out on whatever income that was or whatever hobby they were getting those for.
And now he's got a worldwide ban.
Well,
what's it say?
It says worldwide hunting ban. I don't know how that would work. There's probably a typo there.
There's always Texas.
It's Field and Stream magazine, so it's a magazine publication. So it's.
So what should the penalty be? I mean, a ban of some kind on hunting and having a hunting license. I mean, that's I think to me that fits under the realm of outdoor sports.
Yeah,
and it's under the realm of the Fish and Game.
Yeah,
right, of DNR, if you will. So
and that's now you said I think it was Wyoming. Where that happened. Now, Wyoming Elk Refuge. Last spring, an employee at a Wyoming elk I should have read the rest of this. A Wyoming Elk Refuge spotted an illegal pile of sheds on the refuge property. The discovery led to a year-long investigation that just wrapped up last month.
Wow.
So they saw the pile, but they decided to just keep an eye on it.
Wow.
And so that led to the culprits, obviously. So.
Wow. And there's stories of guys on the outskirts of Yellowstone, hiking into Yellowstone.
Yeah.
In fact, I think last year there was a guy illegally getting sheds who was attacked by a grizzly.
Yeah. I think I remember
If I remember, maybe it was the year before.
But you know how memory works.
Yeah. It's.
Should we talk about wolves a little bit? A couple of interesting wolf stories.
Yeah. Wolves have been making some headlines.
Yeah.
One of the first incidences I found was a wolf, a Michigan wolf, a northern Michigan wolf. You know how the UP works in Michigan?
Describe.
The Upper Peninsula.
Oh, Upper Peninsula. Yeah.
Right, the UP. Michigan's UP is completely disconnected from the lower part of Michigan. It's actually more connected to Minnesota, and another state. It's like weird.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yes,
Yeah.
Wisconsin and Minnesota.
You would think that would be a part of Wisconsin, the way that branches.
Right, but for whatever reason, it's
Michigan.
It's part of Michigan.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of wolves. I mean, the population, the wolf population map that they show, I think there's more wolves in Michigan than there is Idaho.
There probably is.
Right? That doesn't sound right.
But we don't know.
I would have to look up the numbers, and you know how hard that is these days. So
I could do it now.
But
one
I'm
of
these
busy.
wolves was found in the lower part. There's just one bridge that goes from the lower part of Michigan to the upper peninsula.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's a famous bridge though.
Just one. So either the wolf crossed that, or he came across on
Doggy
ice.
paddle.
Maybe. Well, I mean, wintertime, ice can form. It's pretty far north, so ice can form. I don't know if that was the deal, but a wolf was killed in southern Michigan.
Okay,
I'm talking almost spitting distance from Illinois.
Okay,
very close. Then another wolf from Michigan with Michigan genetics was found in Colorado.
Yeah.
Those are long ways for wolves to go.
But another wolf was found in Colorado with Minnesota genetics.
That's what I meant. The same Michigan, Minnesota. Yeah.
Well,
it's the same population. Yeah, because it's connected, right? It's the same population of wolves.
The Great Lakes population.
Yes. Thank you.
I was looking for the terms myself, to be honest. I couldn't remember.
Yeah. The Great Lakes population is what it is, but it's so rare to ever see them in southern Michigan. Yeah,
we had been even though we haven't done the podcast in a couple of weeks for various reasons, we've found some similar threads, which I think is always kind of cool.
Yeah,
and we sometimes find different angles, because you found a little bit of a different angle than I found. You found a gentleman talking about the two wolves in Colorado.
Yeah,
one of which I had come across. I didn't come across the other one, but the one that I came across was actually trapped by it was on private property by a coyote trap. On private land, and wolves were already in Colorado.
Yeah,
even though we're reintroducing them. Yes.
Yeah.
I just wonder what that will mean in terms of if they were already found there. How many can they determine? They're elusive. They're really hard to find. But will they crossbreed and create? Could that happen?
Well, let's hope so.
Right?
Well, let's hope
that
so.
Genetic diversity, yeah.
You definitely need that, but it's surprising to find out how far wolves traveled. It'll be interesting to see, now that wolves are a story in Colorado, how many times wolves are killed and traced back to the Minnesota population or the Great Lakes population.
The article on the wolf that I posted, and I can't remember, I read the whole article thinking, because I'm like, I'll remember this data point, and I don't, because they mentioned how far the wolves will travel.
Yeah.
And they gave some specific incidents. And it kind of reminded me of the conversation we had about toxoplasmosis and how it'll cause these lone wolves. And so it kind of makes me wonder if that could be part of it. But
yeah, I just read a thing on anchoring bias. And now I think everything is anchoring bias.
Anchoring bias. I taught that a few weeks ago.
I think you have an anchoring bias on toxoplasmosis. I really think you do. That's the only example I could come up with when I was reading this book. Like, what's an anchoring bias? Every time I mention wolves, the toxoplasmosis comes up. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
I don't want you to be sorry. I want you to be aware.
But I feel bad. Don't be sorry. Just feel bad.
That's
just
all
say
I
that
wanted.
to me.
I just wanted you to feel bad.
Thank you.
Great.
You're welcome.
Anyway.
And then Wyoming wolf issue. Did we talk about that one?
No. This is a sad one. Okay. This is a downer. The Wyoming wolf issue is about, allegedly, a sportsman on a snowmobile ran down a wolf until he was exhausted, ran him over, taped his muzzle, put a shock collar on him, took him to a bar, did a bunch of selfies. Anyways, of course, it's very bad.
We did talk about this. I think I already put it out of my mind because it's so depressing that somebody would be so inhuman.
Yeah, and so once again, this would fall under the jurisdiction, in my mind, of Fish and Game.
Yeah.
Of whatever Wyoming Department of Natural Resources is. And what should the punishment be for this sportsman?
Well, I'm not going to say the punishment I said before the podcast.
Thank you. Obviously, I mean, it's one thing to think very strongly about somebody doing this. It's another thing to go.
What is the correct penalty?
I know.
I was sort of joking about what I said earlier, but it's conflicting. It's like you have to understand the human there. Are they of sound mind, or do they have some rigid pattern of behavior that's unchangeable? And I think that, I mean, it's up to, I think, a court. Yeah. I would hope a court can help decide this outcome, and maybe a jury of peers. But is the person going to demonstrate remorse for this? Because the videos certainly tell me they didn't care.
Right.
Oh, look at this. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I did not see any video. I only heard the story. If I saw any video, I would avert my eyes.
Well, I saw a video clip somewhere, and it started to automatically play. But I saw the headline. I'm like, well, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, okay. But I don't, and I will scroll away. Just and not because not only because I don't want to see the animal suffer, and I'm just not into that. I don't want to help feed the algorithm. Right. But that's a story people should be seeing.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want it to be like, oh, here, I'll show you more of this. Like, no.
Right. No. Right. I don't. So I want to train the algorithm. Hey, that's not my cup of tea.
Right.
So that's a part of a lot of that, and it makes me sad for sportsmen. It just makes me sad for sportsmen. So anyway,
let's talk about something more grisly then.
Like it. I like it.
Not in the same context, though.
They are coming out of hibernation.
They are.
And I showed you a video today.
Yes.
Of a grizzly and 3 sows running down a road. And the grizzly and the 3 sows clear the road, clear the ditch, go through the fence. And as the truck goes by, that grizzly turns around and comes back through that fence.
That grizzly was not having it, man.
And it looked like... I know you're in a truck, but I don't think it's going to help you.
I always wondered about bear eyesight. Now, this bear comes back through this barbed wire fence and clearly goes through the barbed wire rungs and
dove with both hands
and with
both
perfect
paws.
form. It was a 10 from my 10 across the board. Like, and then
I didn't even see any fur fly off from the barbed wire.
Exactly, and then she did it the other way too.
Yeah.
I was like,
so interesting. I'm thinking about spring bear because I want to get out after spring bear. So I watched a really great involved video on spring bear. You're looking at the clock, weren't you?
No.
Oh, he's talking about something that's not on the list. How's our clock going? I'm just kidding.
The clock's right there. So it was a red herring. Is that right? Anyway. Yes.
Where was I?
You were talking about getting out after the spring bear.
Yeah, and I read a thing, or I watched a video on spring bear. So a couple of really interesting points on spring bear is black bear, they need grass. And they want the green wave.
Okay.
They want that green wave. Wherever the sunlight is melting the snow away, within 300 or 400 yards of that, that is where you're going to find bears. So I actually YouTubed, hey, how can I e-scout for bears in Idaho? And here I found this guy looking at a place in Idaho, showing me the hillsides and how to change the shadows for the time of year to know where the greener grass might be.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I found that interesting. But the guy talked about a bear's eyesight being about as good as a human's.
Okay.
So I like that. Eyesight is bad. Yeah, most humans don't have really great eyesight.
I'm just going to assume that bear has macular degeneration.
Right. He wasn't wearing sunglasses all summer. It's going to happen. So
the cataracts? Sorry.
If only they live that long.
Right.
So I just found that an interesting tidbit. I've always heard that bears have poor eyesight. But when we have poor eyesight, but what do? We like to get up on a hilltop, up on a hillside, up on a mountaintop. What do we like to do if we're sitting down? We stand if we want to see. So what do bears do? We'll talk about that later. That's one of the last ones.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
All right.
That one's coming up. But
okay.
That was the ... from the intro.
It was.
And you know, it's just a nugget leading into that in a little bit. So I like that you play well placed.
Okay.
To keep the interest going. That's our filter for this episode. Is that you just got what is this about? All bears are what? Yeah. Oh, you almost leaned into it there. But there's also Grizzly 399 is out with her, and it says here gigantic cub.
Yeah.
And then but I didn't realize this till you told me. Grizzly 610.
Yeah.
Tell me about 610.
Oh, this was a cool article. I'll put all the words up on the page. I'll tell you what I can remember. But Grizzly 610 is the daughter of Grizzly 399.
That's cool.
Grizzly 610
anyway.
Last October was hit by a car. She has 3 cubs.
Yeah.
She was hit by a car. She was resting like on the highway for a couple of hours before officials had to usher her away from the highway.
Encourage her.
Encourage. That was the language. Encourage her. And now she's emerging from her den.
So
to have an encounter with a car, her and all 3 cubs emerged from the den.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm happy to hear that because
that's amazing.
Animals in cars usually have a bad outcome, typically for the animal, sometimes for both.
Yeah. Yeah. And that article also mentioned a new documentary style film coming out about Grizzly 399, Queen of the Tetons. She's so famous.
I really want to see this. And I think I texted you. I was watching a documentary on PBS.
Yeah.
I'm like, they just mentioned Grizzly 399.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that because we had been talking about it.
She's so famous. She's so famous. And now they're doing a whole documentary on her. It's on May 8th on PBS. But PBS documentaries are second to very few. They're very good, especially nature documentaries. So,
yeah. I can't remember the this is less exciting here. I forgot the context of this one, but Wyoming officials have apparently euthanized their first grizzly bear that wandered into Bighorn Mountains in the last 100 years.
Yeah. It's I don't know what it's about either, but it's a sign of their growth and their expansion.
Yeah.
Right?
And grizzly on the door, grizzly in the driveway.
If there is a problematic bear and it continues to be problematic, they'll either move it or they'll have to euthanize it. And they haven't had to do that in 100 years. And so now they did. And okay, it's sad that the bear's dead, but it's a sign of growth, and we're going to see more stories like that to come.
All right. Chronic wasting disease.
CWD.
Yeah. So apparently it's been around for a long time, but it hasn't been in every state. I feel like I may have already talked about this one, or at very least it happened in another state. Some states have identified it, some states haven't. It's becoming increasingly prevalent everywhere. But Indiana has identified its first case of CWD.
Yeah, which I would have thought Indiana would have had a case before Idaho.
Yeah, so that was in OutdoorLife.com reported that.
Okay.
But I came across a different CWD. And a whole bunch of red flags came up for me on this one because it said, let me find the original one.
I remember this.
Study. Hunters die after consuming CWD-infected venison.
Wow. Was it a car accident? Because then it would be way out of context.
No. And so I read this article and I'm like, okay, if only 2 hunters ate infected deer, is it likely that other hunters have eaten infected deer?
Oh, very likely.
So right there's the first red flag.
Yes.
Suddenly just 2 from the same carcass.
Right.
There's a lot we don't know. So
for all we know, it was cooked in the same pot. Or undercooked in the same pot.
Or whatever.
Right.
But the many variables of what could have, but the headline suggests a causation.
Yeah, of course.
And that's the other red flag.
Yeah.
A headline that suggests a causation out of a correlation is problematic to me. And so I came across another headline that just says, oh, that's the Indiana one. Where'd it go? Where is it? I just had it up a second ago. Nope.
Oh, no.
I can't find it. That's not it. Hold on. Technical issues here.
Do you have working memory of what it was about?
Well, I just wanted to read the headline.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Because that was. Oh, it's right next to it. It's like,
yeah, you make a good dad someday.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't find it. It's in the fridge.
Viral articles claiming 2 hunters died after consuming CWD infected venison. Here's what really happened. And that's the Outdoor Life article. Now, what I do remember is they talked about these gentlemen having something that was similar to Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, CD. It's a cognitive disorder.
Okay.
It's a cognitive disorder that sometimes is associated with eating infected meat from cows who have mad cow disease.
Oh,
Jacobs
okay.
Creutzfeldt disease. So
Okay.
JD something. But because there's an association that CWD is like mad cow disease, but that's not the same thing. There's no known. So there's a lot more to the story. And there was more to it, and I can't remember all of it. But all I know is that it was a very, very unlikely causation connection to the CWD meat.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna have to do a lot more. Give me a lot more evidence than that.
So
for me to swallow that headline.
More than anything, it's just a PSA. Be careful what you find out there. And so, go ahead and read something. Have a curiosity, but be skeptical.
Yeah.
Healthy skepticism is okay. And then you'll watch especially these articles that are really bad. You'll see people start to rebuttal them pretty quick. And this one, it didn't take, I think it was within 24 to 48 hours. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I knew there was going to be somebody looking into that further. I just didn't have the time to do it. Not that I would have. But I found the articles that contest each other. But ultimately, more red flags than green flags on that. I accidentally skipped over something.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So we're getting close to the end of our list anyway. Here in Twin Falls, here in the state of Idaho, actually, the Idaho Department. I'm sorry. I should be respectful.
Please be respectful.
The Idaho Department of Fish and Game is celebrating 125 years of existence across the state this year. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah.
125 years of conservation, what it was established to do. And they're going to have a celebration here in our town on May 18th downtown, a couple blocks away from where you live. And so if I can remember and I have the time and the wherewithal, I'd love to be down there and just kind of hang out and make connections, talk to people, and do some of that stuff. So
that's May 18th?
May 18th.
Okay.
And they have it in different regions: Upper Snake River region, Beaver Dick Park, west of Rexburg.
Okay.
On May 11th, here in the Magic Valley, Twin Falls City Park, May 18th. And it's 3 to 6 p.m. For us. It's 9 to 2 p.m. in Rexburg for some reason. 9 to 1. Why do we have this really?
3 to 6, maybe it's a Friday. 9 to 2, maybe it's a Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I might have the day of the week off there. But either way, times don't really matter. I'm just griping over nothing. But anyway.
Okay, cool.
Twin Falls, though, is what's
celebrating 125 years. We'll have to get some pics.
Yes. All bears are what?
All Bigfoot are bears. Not all bears are Bigfoot.
So a little bit of a twist there.
Yeah. So we were talking about bears and their eyesight being about as good as a human, but what good is their eyesight? Their ears and their nose are so much better because they can see past the weeds, right? Their nose and their ears can see a lot further when their head is down eating. So if they are going to use their eyesight, which is decent, right? According to this one thing I watched on YouTube, about as good as a human. That doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
Because there's some animals out there that have really good eyesight. But to say, okay, well, these bears want to get a look around, they're going to stand up on their hind legs.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? I think I remember a video, and maybe I showed it to you, maybe I just talked about it, but a video of a black bear wandering around a cul-de-sac looking through garbage bins. Yeah. And it didn't bother get down on all fours between garbage bins.
It wastes too much energy.
My only thought was, if you saw that in the woods, you would think it was Bigfoot. If you saw that, because the bottom half would be so covered up by brush and sticks, you would just see something obviously walking on two legs, and you would just think Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the Bigfoot sightings are mostly bears.
All bears are Bigfoot.
I want to believe in Bigfoot. I don't, but I want to.
I know.
Okay.
I do too. I used to, but
Yeah.
I don't anymore. What happened to him? Yeah. Okay. So, page 2.
All right, and now page 2.
Confessions.
Yes. Oh, confession. So this is my wife decided to open her own CrossFit gym.
Yes.
And so we don't have a CrossFit gym currently to work out in.
Yeah.
So, which is fine. We're waiting for the proper permits before we can work out in the gym that she's building and putting together, and it will definitely happen. We're very excited about it. But in the meantime, I have been doing some pretty steady cardio work on my exercise bike in my basement.
Okay.
And I have noticed a difference.
Have you?
A very significant difference. And, you think, yeah, I do CrossFit. Yeah. And I would go, I would go in, I'll half-ass it. I got, decent cardio. I'm strong. And my strength usually carries me when it's hard, heavy workouts instead of the cardio that carries me. It's just my strength.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed now, and I've always known I probably should do some cardio. I should do some cardio, but I've been doing 30 minutes of cardio on the bike 5 times a week. And the difference is very interesting. It's very interesting.
When we hiked Mount Boro with Draven,
Yeah.
we got this elliptical that I have.
Yeah.
And I started doing that, and then we did Mount Boro, but I was preparing for September on that thing. And
Right.
I was surprised
Yeah.
at the difference. Like,
Yeah.
in a good way.
And I'm just getting my heart rate up.
Yeah.
My legs aren't tired. My lungs, I can have conversation still. I'm breathing pretty hard. I get my heart rate up to about, I think 140, 150 it averages 140 over the 30 minutes, which is pretty good because that's been creeping up. I started at like 125. Like, how hard can I go for 30 minutes? But I've been slowly pushing that up. And so now I realize there's something maybe CrossFit doesn't do for me that I need to be doing for myself. And so I just wanted to make that confession. I just wanted to get that out there.
That is interesting.
Yeah, right?
And it seems relevant for elk season.
It does. Very relevant. Very relevant because I'm like, I can't believe how much better I'm on the bike this week than last week.
Yeah.
And it's just so much easier. Anyway,
I
and
remember
other things in life too that I've noticed that like, oh, that used to tire me out, or I used to.
I noticed that I like to, when I get on the elliptical, I have a certain setting of resistance that I worked up to.
Yeah.
And if I go higher than that, I don't really like it, but I like this sweet spot because it allows me to push, but it's kind of like the right gear on a bike that you like to ride in most of the time.
Yeah.
And then if I wanted to, you can replicate going up or down. And it's like right smack dab in the middle. It's kind of perfect for having that in terms of what that bike can do.
One of my favorite, I know I'm not a big fan of the elliptical now, but I am because I've always liked the elliptical because it always was able to rock my heart rate way high, which is what I want to be doing when I'm working out. And it's no impact. I'm not doing any damage to my knees or my ankles. I'm just working my cardio. Now, there are things you need to do. You do need to get out there and walk on uneven terrain and hike steep terrain and carry a backpack and all that stuff. But all that's going to be easier with some good cardio.
Good cardio. Yep. Yeah. Well, great. I'll never mind. I don't know what I was going to say there.
Yeah.
I do know what I was going to say. I just don't want to say it anymore, so I stumbled out of it.
Oh, okay.
So, but the last thing we have is gear.
Were you going to say I told you so?
I want to. No, I wasn't going to say that at all.
Just kidding.
Do you want me to say that?
Yeah, I've got some new gear. I bought a bino harness, and I've had my new binos for 4 years now.
Yeah, and you've been very clever with them, but I've also seen you wrestle with them out in the field.
A little, a little.
And so I'm proud of you for making the jump, and I'm cautiously optimistic that you'll find the benefits that this is going to sound like I told you so moment, but find the benefits that I've always appreciated about them.
Right.
So
right. I'm already thinking about it. I'm already thinking. You know how I keep my napkins in my pockets on my pants?
I got you.
I got to have napkins because my
nose
runs like the Amazon, and I'm always like, I'm always blowing my nose, so I always have a good supply of napkins.
Yep.
So that's what I was thinking for one side.
It's actually not for the binoculars. It's just for a stack of napkins.
And the binoculars are nice because I hate wrestling with that stupid necklace.
Right.
So that's removed. That's gone now.
Yeah. Mine actually have the little clippies that allow it to not
Yes.
fall out. But
Yes.
then I can. Does yours do that?
Yes, it does.
Because
Yeah.
I've never used a necklace on my
Yeah.
binoculars.
It's not called a necklace, but whatever.
It's a necklace. It's accessories for hunters.
It
It's
is.
a necklace.
It's a beautiful necklace.
Look.
So, but the other pouch, and I did look at some rangefinders,
Okay.
and I know I have to get I know I talked about this before, but I need a rangefinder.
I don't know that you do. I mean, I know you should get one.
No,
but your shooting is so.
it's not so
Good.
much. It's not so much for the elk as it is for the wolves. I do want to hunt wolves. I do need to range within 1,000 yards, and I do need a very good rangefinder if I'm going to try to shoot up to 1,000 yards. So that's mostly what it's for. But I am looking forward to practicing with my rangefinder. Hey, there's a lot of quiet time on the mountain.
Oh
somewhere.
yeah.
What's that? About 60? 62. That was close. What's this one? 50? 38. Oh, my bad.
You're going to be disappointed, and here's why you're going to be disappointed.
I'm right. No.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, why did I buy this dumb thing? It's always telling me what I'm already knowing.
Well, we have practiced a lot with it.
And I've
With yours.
Why no? When we've both been like, how far away is that? And I'm like this, and you're like, it's that, and I'm like, you're right. It just happens all the time.
Well, I'm glad that's your perception. Well, I played that game once with Lance last year when we were hunting, and I think I said 50, and it ended up being 68. It's like, oh. I guess that tree's it's not closer. It's just bigger.
Okay. Well,
Anyway,
in a way, maybe I'm secretly hoping that's the case more often. Not that I want it to be, because you've shot for so long, it's more intuitive, so it'll probably
Right.
be more on than off. But.
right. So we'll see, and it never hurts, right? It's kind of a use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Keep practicing, understanding your distances. You're not always going to have a chance to range when you have a shot.
Yeah.
Right. Those animals move, and you can't always range it.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to kind of infer, take a few measurements around, and just infer where the range is going to be.
I think the crazy thing about it for me though is I've had the opportunity to range more often than not,
Yeah.
and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
But
He was 40 yards last year. That last day.
But you ranged after he left.
No.
So
I ranged before he came down.
oh,
I get in
okay.
position
Oh,
and
gotcha,
I
gotcha,
range.
gotcha. Yeah.
And then he came down, so I knew.
I don't want to be ranging. Here's what I'm getting at. I don't want to be ranging when I should be taking a shot.
Oh yeah. No.
Right. So-
it's all about if you get into a setup,
Right.
range, so you have the general idea.
Right. And then infer.
And then he came down to that spot that I ranged at 40. But I had a branch and a tree in front of me, but he was there tiptoeing in.
Oh, that was so good.
That's what disappointed me. Oh.
It's all right. This year's going to be good.
I could now that spike that we spooked and I lost that arrow. If I would have not put my dumb rangefinder down, because it has a necklace,
It doesn't attach to your bino harness?
The pouch is there.
Yeah.
But I had pulled it out, ranged some stuff, and set it
okay.
down. Then I got up because he came out. But if I had had it on me, I could have very carefully ranged him and got him.
Oh.
Still, I will. It's so when you saw me at the beginning of us having this conversation in rangefinder, and I'm like, ugh. I've had these moments of like, I should have had it.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
That brings us to the end of our list.
Well, that is the end of the list. That's still not bad. 45 minutes, and we hurried, and we hustled. But that was 3 weeks worth of stuff. I think we can trim it down a little bit more.
I think so.
Okay.
But it was great. I think it was a good time either way.
Yeah, good time. All right.
Cheers.
What was I saying? Keep your stick on the ice.
Hey.
Goodbye.